Alright, welcome back to the second video here in our Podio for Property Management training. This video we're going to continue moving through our apps, and we're going to talk specifically about the Units app today. Okay, now I mentioned in the previous video that we have our properties, that's the physical address of our building. The Units is going to be the various apartments or units, lower, so the different sides that we're going to be tracking. And Units is really one of the foundational apps or most important apps of this entire workspace. And the reason for that is that every renter is going to be assigned to a unit, our leases are assigned to a unit, and our units have a ton of important information that we're going to be calling upon throughout this entire process. So as I click on my units here, we default to some of my views that I have set up. And you can see just a simple table view for now of the property, the unit name, and then a bunch of other info, square footage, monthly rent, etc. Now this is actually the rent roll report that's going to be pre-built for you to use. And this is a nice way to automatically and quickly understand what is rented, what's not, what the square footage is. As a property manager, as somebody who owns rental properties, you're probably frequently asked to provide rent rolls for banks and things like that. This is a really quick way to grab that, to get a summary of the different units that you have, okay? And we're going to dig into a couple of these and understand what is in here. So if I grab this one right here, the unit name is going to be automatically determined based on the property and the unit name and number. Okay, so basically all we do is we take from the property 264 Union dash apartment 2. Okay, so you're going to fill in this information. What property is it related to? The unit name. Now this could be an apartment, this could be upper lower, this could be house. Okay, if you have a single family home, I would recommend you use something like house, and that's a one-to-one relationship. You only have one unit for that one property. Square footage you're going to enter here. Monthly rent is a market rent, is what you want to get out of it. Now you may be leased for that much. You should be hopefully leased for that much, maybe not. We have some automation in here that as we get new leases, we automatically update this with the market. Okay, so this is a field for you to populate as you're getting started, but the system will continue to update this as we move through. Rent per square foot is a calculation here. The annual rent is of course a calculation. The future monthly rent is a nice way for us to tell the system, right now I'm rented for $11.50 potentially, but I would like to, every time I execute a new lease or create a new vacancy that I'm marketing, then the next monthly rent I would like to market it at is 2% higher or 1% higher. Okay, so you can use this if you want. Some people don't like to use that, and they can just keep it at 0, and that's fine too. You're always able to, as you create your vacancies, manually update that. All right, just a way to help automate. All right, a few more calculations here. The active lease amount, so we do have a lease tied to this property. We have one active lease tied to this unit, and the occupancy status is therefore occupied. All right, so a lot of this data is going to be pre-calculated based on our leases. What we have down here is a great way for us to store some basic information about the unit that we can use throughout this process. And when I say use, I mean when we create ads for this, we would like to potentially have some stored text here. So I'm going to go through that right now and do that. So when I create ads, I'll often have a bullet list of things that I list out for the property. So it could be things like talking about the location. We could include things like that we recently renovated the unit. Okay, we could also say convenient parking. Whatever we want to say for our ad text, we can put it here, right? Appliances included, whatever. And what's going to happen with this ad text is whenever I create a vacancy for this specific unit, this is going to populate in the vacancy, and I can copy and paste it into my ad. I don't have to, but it's there for me to use, okay? Also, the set security deposit, late fees that we typically use, this is going to pre-populate the leases that we start using. And again, in all of these cases, this information can be changed later. So like if I create a new lease, it's going to default my security deposit, my late fees, and all that stuff to this. I can always change it on my lease or on my vacancy. So don't worry about it. All this does is helps to expedite the process down the road, okay? Or if you have your admin, your bookkeeper, your admin, your VA doing some of this stuff, you can kind of take some of those decision points away by pre-writing the text or pre-populating some of this key information. The pets, the utilities that are included. Now, for the most part, it's water, sewer, trash. Maybe you have laundry, lawn care, snow removal. So click all that apply. Again, this will pre-populate for the lease. Others included in rent. Maybe you are providing something else. So, we have internet up there, but this could be like additional parking space or something like this. So whatever else. And this, again, is just to help you down the road. All right, so the unit information might seem a little cumbersome as you're getting started to populate, but it's really important to get some information in here so that you can use it down the road. All right, now I'm going to use this opportunity to talk a little bit about views, and we're going to talk about views a lot throughout all of this training, but I do want you to understand there's different ways for you to see your data. All right, so I have the rent roll set up here. This is a table view. Sometimes you might like to use what's called a card view. Now the card view is interesting in that it separates up your it sets up your view so that each unit is a card. Now we have to do some customizing here to make this look a little better. To customize how the card layout looks, we would go to the wrench here and go to layout options and go to the card layout. And we would determine what we want to show up on that card. Now this has not been formatted yet, so I'm going to show you how we would format that. At the top, you'd probably want the unit name. The default ad text is not that important, so that probably wouldn't need to be there. But we would probably want maybe the occupancy status. Okay. We might also want on here the square footage, monthly rent, and then maybe monthly rent per square foot. Go ahead and click save there, and you can see that it updates the cards. All right, so that we can read those. And right now they're separated by property. We can change that as well just by clicking up here. So what's cool about this is if you want to update things, you can click and drag them throughout to move them to a different property, move them to a different status, etc. I'm going to really show you that when we get into renters, because we're going to use a CRM in more of a pipeline view. All right, so if I wanted to take this rent roll and potentially filter it down, now this rent roll setup is set up such that if I click on one of these, it's going to filter down my list to just that property, and there it is. It's just all the 264 Union ones. If I think I'm going to want to use this view for later, what I can do is go to create new view and call this 264 Union, and whether it's a private view that just I want to see or my entire team wants to see, and you don't need to split it by anything necessarily, but now the view is there ready for me to see for the future. All right, so that's just a quick intro to how the views are set up. Again, we're going to give you some pre-populated default views, but you're going to want the ability to update those yourself. So we're going to work through, as we move through the training videos, we're going to have several examples where we can talk through how to update the views and get more use out of them. All right, so that does it for the units. On the next video, we're going to start digging into renters, and this is going to take up more than one video, as there's a ton that goes into renters. Not only your CRM and finding and identifying renters, but we're going to talk about digital document execution with right signature. We're going to talk about setting up appointments, and we're going to talk about communicating to your tenants and your renters directly through the Podio app, so you don't have to use email. We can text them and we can email them. So I'm going to show you that in a series of videos coming up. All right, we'll see you next time.